This is a Fox News alert. I'm Brett Baer in Washington. Lawmakers in Arkansas are saying tonight, bring it on. A few minutes ago, they passed a religious freedom bill very similar to the one in Indiana that has provoked outrage over its perceived potential to sanction discrimination. Correspondent Peter Ducey is here tonight with a tale of two states. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Brett. Those lawmakers in Arkansas are saying any changes to the bill they just passed won't happen for 2 years. But we saw today, Indiana Governor Mike Pence didn't want to wait. Fix this now. That's what the front page of Indiana's biggest newspaper said when Governor Mike Pence woke up this morning, and by lunchtime, an announcement.
It would be helpful to move legislation this week that makes it clear that this law does not give businesses a right to deny services to anyone.
So an update is on the way to a Religious Freedom Restoration Act that some fear could be used by business owners to deny service to gay, lesbian, or transgendered customers if the owners say it conflicts with their religion. But Pence says that's not the point of the law.
The smear here against this bill is that it created a license to discriminate or a license to deny services. And that's just completely false.
And at the White House, officials are dismissing a Pence claim that his state's law is similar to one once signed by President Clinton.
The 1993 law was an effort to try to protect the religious liberty of religious minorities based on actions that could be taken by the federal government. The Indiana law is much broader.
Over the last few weeks, big brand names have condemned the Indiana measure, including NASCAR, Walmart, and Apple, whose CEO Tim Cook called the law disappointing, even though, as blogger The Gateway Pundit points out, Apple does business with 4 countries that execute people just for being gay. Pence is still considered a potential contender in 2016 and has seen support amid this firestorm from many other bold-faced Republican names, including Bush, who says Governor Pence has done the right thing, Perry, who says religious freedom is worth protecting, and Rubio, who points out nobody is saying that it should be legal to deny someone service at a restaurant or at a hotel because of their sexual orientation. Others, like Paul, Kasich, and Christie, have kept quiet. As for what happens when the dust settles, some experts now predict a positive outcome for Pence.
The media and the mob are sort of coming together and trying to pressure a sitting governor over a law that he obviously legally passed. And I think just the fact that you're standing up to this mob, I think helps you.
The whole world was watching Pence today, but in his own state house, some backers of this religious freedom bill are not happy the governor wants to tweak its language, worried that exemptions will weaken the law. Still, Pence was clear he recognizes there is a perception this law discriminates, and he says that perception needs to change. Brett.
Peter, thank you. More on this with the panel. More breaking news today. The chairman of the House Select Committee on Benghazi is asking Hillary Clinton to sit down with his panel for an interview in the next month to discuss the ongoing scandal over her email. This comes as we learn of more holes tonight in Clinton's story about her use of electronic communications. Correspondent Kevin Cork is here with more. Good evening, Kevin.
Brett, good evening. The Associated Press has obtained emails from the year before the Benghazi attacks that clearly show that former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton mixed her personal and government messages.
They were personal and private about matters that I believed were within the scope of my personal privacy, and that particularly of other people. They had nothing to do with work, but I didn't see any reason to keep them.
Yet emails obtained in a Freedom of Information Act request filed by the Associated Press show Clinton mixed personal and work matters. That raises doubts about the accuracy of her claim that emails wiped from her home-based server were only personal in nature and did not include government correspondence. The AP reports that in September 2011, in response to a message sent by advisor Huma Abedin about a drone strike in Pakistan, Clinton replied with questions that appear to be about decorations. Clinton wrote, "What would the bench be made of? And I'd prefer 2 shelves or attractive boxes. What do you think?" Abedin replied, "Did you mean to send to me?" Clinton wrote, "No, sorry. Also, please let me know if you got a reply from my iPad. I'm not sure replies go through." There is also evidence that Clinton emailed her staff on an iPad as well as a BlackBerry while serving as America's top diplomat. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Benghazi Special Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy has asked Clinton's attorney, David Kendall, for a closed-door, transcribed interview with the former secretary by May 1st about how she handled her emails. Clinton spokesman Nick Merrill didn't address Mr. Gowdy's request directly, but said Clinton is ready to be heard, telling the Washington Times, quote, "To be clear, she remains ready to appear at a hearing open to the American public." The email saga has cast a billowing political cloud over Clinton, who is widely expected to announce her candidacy for president next month. Likely Democratic challenger, former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, told Fox News if Clinton has nothing to hide, answering questions about the emails should be easy.
In my 15 years of executive service, I mean, we took openness and transparency in the operations of our government to a very high level, and I think she's capable of answering those questions.
In addition to asking for that transcribed interview with the former Secretary of State, Chairman Gowdy is also asking her camp to turn over the server to a neutral third party so they can determine if there's anything remaining that might be related to the Benghazi investigation, a request so far the Clinton camp has rejected. Brett.
Kevin, thank you. The airline Lufthansa says it knew 6 years ago that the co-pilot who flew a passenger plane into the French Alps had suffered from serious depression. The airline also says its insurers have set aside $300 million to deal with liability issues. Meanwhile, media reports say cell phone video found at the wreckage shows the chaos inside the plane during the final seconds of that doomed flight. The Iranian nuclear arms talks are going into overtime. The State Department says enough progress has been made during the several days of marathon sessions to justify extending the original deadline, which came and went about 6 minutes ago. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen is here with the latest on what all this means. Good evening, James.
Brett, good evening. With 3 hours left before the deadline, the State Department confirmed the talks would extend at least into Wednesday, deferring for another day, but perhaps only another day, a long-awaited hour of decision.
In Lausanne, Switzerland, Iran's foreign minister met again with Secretary of State Kerry and the foreign ministers of Russia, China, Britain, France, and Germany, also known as the P5+1. Published reports said they were working on a joint statement and supplemental memoranda that could be the basis for further technical agreements. The White House today described the March 31st deadline as a little arbitrary and hinted at last-minute breakthroughs.
I think that's why you've seen so many long negotiations over the last 24 and 36 hours. And as long as those conversations continue to be productive, we're going to continue to have them.
At the same time, Ernest acknowledged that, quote, "We are essentially at the end of the negotiations that began 16 months ago, and that the prospects aren't improving with time."
Do you agree that it only gets harder tomorrow?
It certainly doesn't get any easier.
Critics of the talks, who argue the Obama administration has already conceded too much to the Islamic Republic by allowing Tehran to retain a massive uranium enrichment apparatus and by placing an expiration date on a final accord, blasted this latest extension.
The reality is that there are major gaps between the P5+1 and Iran, and no amount of papering over this, no amount of nuclear diplomatic two-step can hide the fact that these two sides are far apart and will remain far apart over the next few months.
For months, the Obama administration has vowed to shut down Iran's pathways to a nuclear weapon and to extend Tehran's breakout period, the length of time it would take the regime to build a bomb if it walked away from an agreement from the current span of 2 to 3 months to a full year.
That's what we're working towards, and we're not going to accept anything less. Period.
Today, however, the former deputy director of the International Atomic Energy Agency, one of the most respected arms control officials in the world, told reporters the deal under discussion cannot deliver on the president's promises.
If there are 6,500 centrifuges remaining installed and operation, it might be difficult to get it to 1 year or longer the breakup time. It will be clearly below. And then we have to add all the uncertainties, the unknowns to this image. Are there some unknown nuclear materials? Are there some unknown centrifuges?
The actual expiration date for the negotiations is June 30th, but the White House made clear today the U.S. will not wait that long to walk away from the talks if necessary. Brett?
More on this with the panel. James, thank you. President Obama has shortened the prison sentences of 22 drug offenders, including some given life in prison. The White House says the action continues the president's effort to reduce harsh sentences imposed under outdated guidelines. White House counsel Neil Eggleston says many of the 22 would already have served their time had they been sentenced under current laws and policies. Up next, much confusion over who's in control of Saddam Hussein's hometown in Iraq. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 31 in Denver with the arrest of an Uber driver who's accused of dropping off his fare at the airport, then breaking into her home. The passenger's roommate foiled that crime. Uber says it's removed that driver's access to its service. Fox 4 in Dallas, where almost 3,000 pieces of undelivered mail were found at the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport postal facility. The Postal Service says the mail was put back into the system for delivery. And this is a live look at San Diego from our affiliate out there, Fox 5. Sunny day out there as usual. The big story there, thieves stealing $10,000 worth of specially made bicycles for wounded veterans. The adaptive bikes are owned by a nonprofit group called Ride to Recover. The program director says the bikes are therapeutic for many vets struggling with injuries. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.